The blood on her hands wasn't hers. Naomi Carter stood in the parking garage beneath Fifth Avenue, her breath shallow, her white blouse stained crimson. She didn't scream, didn't run. She just stared at the man lying at her feet, the man who had promised her safety, promised her a way out. He was dead, and the only person who could save her now was the same man who had destroyed everything she'd ever loved. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Heavy, deliberate. She knew who it was before she saw him. Dominic Russo, the man who controlled half of Manhattan's underworld. The man who had told her, 3 months ago, to stay away, to forget she ever knew his name. But she hadn't listened. And now, standing over a corpse in a concrete tomb, she realized she never had a choice. He stepped into the light. His eyes found hers. No shock. No anger. Just a cold, awful certainty. Get in the car, he said. She didn't move. Naomi. His voice was quieter now. Almost gentle. You don't understand what you've just done. But she did. She understood perfectly. She had just become the one thing he swore he would never protect, a liability. If you really want to know how a woman with nothing ended up with blood on her hands and a mobster's protection, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because this story gets darker before it gets better. And subscribe, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, love, and survival. 3 months earlier, Naomi Carter had perfected the art of being invisible. She worked the evening shift at Harlow's, a hotel bar in Midtown Manhattan where Wall Street executives loosened their ties and tourists pretended they belonged. She poured drinks, smiled when necessary, and kept her head down. That was the rule. Don't get noticed. Don't get involved. She'd learned that rule the hard way. At 28, Naomi had survived a bad marriage, a bankruptcy, and a restraining order that still sat in her glove compartment like a loaded gun. She'd left Detroit with 2 suitcases and a fake name on her lease. New York was supposed to be her reset. Anonymous. Safe. But safety, she was learning, was just another word for alone. It was a Thursday night when he first walked in. Dominic Russo didn't look like a criminal. He looked like money, the kind that didn't need to prove itself. Tailored suit. Sharp jaw. Eyes that moved through the room like a surveillance camera, cataloging exits, faces, threats. He sat at the far end of the bar, away from the noise, and ordered a whiskey. Neat. Naomi poured it without a word. You're new, he said. She glanced up. His voice was calm. Not a question. A statement. 6 months, she replied. You don't talk much. I'm not paid to talk. A flicker of something crossed his face. Amusement, maybe. Or respect. He left a $100 tip on a $12 drink. The next night, he came back. Same seat. Same drink. Same silence. This time, he brought 2 men with him, quiet, watchful men who didn't order anything. They just stood near the entrance, hands folded, eyes scanning. Naomi's coworker, Jenna, leaned over as she polished a glass. You know who that is, right? Naomi shook her head. Dominic Russo. Runs half the construction contracts in the city. And the other half too, if you know what I mean. Naomi's stomach tightened. She'd heard the name before. Everyone in New York had. The Russo family wasn't just connected, they were the connection. Money laundering. Protection rackets. Real estate fronts. They didn't make headlines because they owned the people who wrote them. Why's he coming here? Naomi asked. Jenna shrugged. Probably owns the place. That night, when Dominic left, he didn't leave a tip. He left a business card. It was blank except for a phone number. Naomi threw it away. But 3 hours later, as she walked to the subway, she felt the weight of eyes on her back. She turned. A black SUV idled at the corner, its windows tinted. It didn't follow her. It didn't need to. She got the message. The next morning, her ex-husband called. She hadn't heard from Marcus in over a year. The restraining order had kept him at bay, but she knew better than to think a piece of paper could stop him. His voice on the line was slurred, angry. I know where you are, Naomi. Her hand froze on the phone. I know where you work. I know where you sleep. You think you can just run? You think you can just disappear? She hung up. Her hands were shaking. That night, Dominic Russo walked into the bar again. And this time, when he sat down, he didn't order a drink. You're in trouble, he said quietly. Naomi's throat tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He slid a photograph across the bar. It was Marcus, standing outside her apartment building, his face half-shadowed in the streetlight. Naomi's blood ran cold. How did you? I make it my business to know things, Dominic said. Especially when someone's being watched. Why do you care? He leaned back, his expression unreadable. I don't. But you work in my place. That makes you my responsibility. I didn't ask for your help. No, he said. But you're going to need it. He stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked toward the door. Wait, Naomi called. He paused. What do you want from me? Dominic looked at her for a long moment. And for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that wasn't control or calculation. It was caution. Nothing, he said. And that's the problem. He left. And Naomi realized she had just crossed a line she didn't even know existed. Naomi didn't call the number. She told herself she didn't need help. That she'd handled Marcus before. That she could handle him again. But 2 nights later, Marcus showed up at the bar. He walked in just before closing, his eyes bloodshot, his gait unsteady. Naomi saw him before he saw her. Her pulse spiked. She turned toward the back exit, but Jenna grabbed her arm. Don't run, Jenna whispered. It'll make it worse. Marcus spotted her. His face twisted into something between rage and satisfaction. There you are. The bar went quiet. The last few customers glanced over, but no one moved. No one ever did. You need to leave, Naomi said, keeping her voice steady. Marcus laughed. You don't tell me what to do. You're still my wife. Ex-wife. Piece of paper doesn't mean shit. He moved closer. You think you can just leave me? Embarrass me? I gave you everything. You gave me nothing. His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. Pain flared up her arm. Let go, she said through gritted teeth. Or what? The door opened. Dominic Russo stepped inside. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The 2 men with him moved past him like shadows, and within seconds, Marcus was on the ground, his arm twisted behind his back, his face pressed against the floor. You're done here, Dominic said quietly. Marcus thrashed. You don't know who you're messing with. One of the men pressed harder. Marcus gasped. Dominic crouched down, his voice low enough that only Marcus could hear. But Naomi saw the color drain from Marcus's face. Saw the fight leave his body. When they let him go, Marcus scrambled to his feet and ran. Naomi stood frozen, her wrist still throbbing. Dominic turned to her. You're closing early tonight. I'm fine, she said. No, you're not. He nodded to his men, and they moved toward the door. Dominic waited. Come on, he said. I'm not going anywhere with you. You are. Because if you stay here, he'll come back. And next time, I won't be around. Why are you doing this? He didn't answer. He just walked out. And after a long moment, Naomi followed. The car was waiting outside. Leather seats. Tinted windows. A driver who didn't look back. Naomi sat in silence as they drove through the city, the lights of Manhattan blurring past. She didn't ask where they were going. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. They stopped in front of a brownstone in the West Village. Expensive. Quiet. The kind of place where neighbors didn't ask questions. This is yours for the next 2 weeks, Dominic said. Rent's covered. Security's covered. You don't go back to your apartment. You don't go back to the bar. You stay here until I tell you it's safe. Naomi stared at him. I can't afford this. You're not paying. Then what's the cost? His jaw tightened. There isn't one. There's always a cost. He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw something flicker behind his eyes. something almost human. You remind me of someone, he said quietly. Who? Someone I couldn't protect. He handed her a key and walked back to the car. Naomi stood on the steps, the key cold in her hand, and watched him disappear into the night. She should have walked away. She should have run. But she didn't. For 2 weeks, Naomi lived in a stranger's home. She worked remotely, filing reports for a legal transcription service she'd picked up on the side. She didn't leave except for groceries. Didn't call anyone. And every night, at exactly 9 p.m., Dominic called. Not to check on her. Not to ask how she was. Just to make sure she was still there. I'm fine, she'd say. Good. And he'd hang up. But on the 13th night, the call didn't come. Naomi waited. 10 minutes. 20. An hour. Nothing. At midnight, someone knocked on the door. She looked through the peephole. It was one of Dominic's men, the one with the scar above his eyebrow. Boss wants to see you, he said. Why? Didn't say. Naomi hesitated. Then she grabbed her coat. They drove to a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. The kind of place that didn't exist on maps. Inside, the air smelled like rust and oil. A single light hung from the ceiling, illuminating a man tied to a chair. Marcus. Naomi's breath caught. Dominic stood in the shadows, his hands in his pockets. He didn't look at her when she entered. He came back, Dominic said. Tried to find you. Hurt someone in the process. Naomi's stomach turned. Who? Your coworker. Jenna. She's in the hospital. Tears stung Naomi's eyes. I brought you here, Dominic continued, because you need to understand something. This doesn't end with a restraining order. It doesn't end with me scaring him off. It ends when you decide how it ends. Naomi stared at Marcus. His face was bruised. His eyes were filled with hate. What are you saying? She whispered. Dominic finally looked at her. I'm saying you have a choice. Walk away, and I'll handle this my way. Stay, and you handle it yours. I'm not a killer. I didn't say you were. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. But you need to stop being a victim. Because the world doesn't care how much you've suffered. It only cares what you're willing to do about it. Naomi's hands trembled. Marcus spat blood onto the concrete. You don't have the guts. And in that moment, Naomi realized something. Dominic wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to see if she could save herself. Naomi didn't pull the trigger. She walked out of that warehouse with her hands clean and her conscience still intact. But the choice itself, the fact that she'd had to make it, left something broken inside her. Dominic handled Marcus. She didn't ask how. Didn't want to know. All she knew was that Marcus stopped calling. Stopped showing up. Disappeared. And in his absence, Naomi found something worse than fear. Gratitude. She owed Dominic Russo her life. And debt, she was learning, was its own kind of prison. A week later, Dominic called her to a restaurant in Tribeca. Not a meeting. Not business. Dinner. I don't understand, Naomi said when she arrived. Dominic was already seated, a glass of wine in front of him. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. She did. I wanted to check on you, he said. I'm fine. You're not. Naomi's jaw tightened. What do you want me to say? That I'm grateful? I am. But I don't know what you expect from me. I don't expect anything. Then why am I here? Dominic leaned back, studying her. Because you're different. Different how? You didn't flinch. Naomi frowned. In the warehouse? He nodded. Most people would have broken down. Begged. Run. You didn't. You looked him in the eye. That takes something most people don't have. What? Stupidity. A faint smile touched his lips. Strength. Naomi looked away. I didn't feel strong. You never do when it matters. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Dominic spoke again, his voice quieter now. I had a sister, he said. Elena. She was 5 years younger than me. Smartest person I ever knew. Wanted to be a lawyer. Help people. Naomi looked up. What happened? She fell in love with the wrong man. Someone outside the family. Outside the life. I told her to stay away. Told her it wasn't safe. She didn't listen. Did he hurt her? Dominic's expression darkened. He got her killed. Naomi's chest tightened. She thought she could save him, Dominic continued. Thought love was enough. It wasn't. And by the time I found out, it was too late. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was my fault. I should have protected her. Should have seen it coming. You can't blame yourself for someone else's choices. Can't I? He drained his glass and stood. You remind me of her. That's why I helped you. And that's why you need to stay away from me. Naomi stood too. What if I don't want to? Dominic looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something unguarded in his eyes. Then you're more dangerous than I thought, he said softly. He left. And Naomi realized she wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of how much she wanted to follow. Naomi went back to work. She told herself she was moving on. That the last month had been an anomaly. A nightmare she could file away and forget. But every time the door opened at Harlow's, she looked up, expecting to see him. Dominic didn't come back. Days turned into weeks. Naomi settled into her routine. She smiled at customers, poured drinks, pretended she was the same person she'd been before. But at night, alone in her apartment, she stared at her reflection and didn't recognize the woman staring back. She'd spent years running from her past. From Marcus. From the version of herself that had stayed too long, forgiven too much, believed too many lies. And now, standing in the quiet of her bathroom, she realized something. She wasn't running anymore. She was waiting. A call came at 2 a.m. Naomi didn't recognize the number, but she answered anyway. It's me. Dominic's voice was rough. Strained. What's wrong? I need you to do something for me. What? There's a package in your mailbox. Don't open it. Just bring it to me. Where are you? He gave her an address in Queens. A warehouse district near the waterfront. Dominic. Please. The line went dead. Naomi's hands shook as she got dressed. She found the package exactly where he said it would be, a small manila envelope, sealed with tape. She didn't open it, but she felt the weight of it in her hands. And she knew, instinctively, that whatever was inside would change everything. The warehouse was dark when she arrived. No lights. No cars. Just the sound of water lapping against the pier. Naomi stepped inside. Dominic. A figure moved in the shadows. He stepped into the faint glow of a streetlight filtering through the broken windows. He looked different. Disheveled. Blood on his knuckles. A cut above his eyebrow. What happened? Naomi whispered. Doesn't matter. He reached for the envelope. Did anyone follow you? No. He tore it open. Inside was a USB drive and a single photograph. Naomi glimpsed the image before he shoved it into his pocket, a young woman, dark-haired, laughing. Who is she? Naomi asked. Dominic's jaw clenched. Someone I thought was dead. Her name was Lucia Moretti. And she was supposed to have died 5 years ago. Dominic sat across from Naomi in a dim office above a legitimate front, an accounting firm that laundered money for half of Brooklyn. His hands were steady now, but his eyes betrayed him. She was my fiancée, he said quietly. Naomi's breath caught. What happened? She was killed. Car accident. Or that's what I was told. He pulled out the photograph. This was taken 3 days ago in Chicago. Naomi stared at the image. The woman was older, thinner, but unmistakably alive. Who would fake her death? My father. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Why? Naomi whispered. Dominic leaned back, his expression hardening. Because she was a federal informant. Naomi felt the floor shift beneath her. I didn't know, Dominic continued. None of us did. She was feeding information to the FBI for 2 years. My father found out. And instead of killing her, he made a deal. She disappears. Testifies against a rival family. And we stay clean. But you thought she was dead. That was the point. I couldn't look for her if I thought she was gone. And now? Dominic's eyes met hers. Now I know the truth. And I have to decide what to do with it. What are you going to do? He didn't answer. For the next 3 days, Naomi barely saw him. Dominic was pulling strings, calling in favors, hunting for answers. And Naomi, against every instinct, found herself pulled deeper into his world. She wasn't naive. She knew what he was, what he did. But she also saw the man beneath the reputation, the one who had loved someone enough to be destroyed by her loss. And she realized with growing dread that she was falling for him. On the 4th night, Dominic showed up at her apartment unannounced. He looked exhausted, haunted. I found her, he said. Where? Here. In New York. She's been here the whole time. Naomi's stomach turned. What are you going to do? Dominic walked to the window, staring out at the city. I'm going to ask her why. And then, he turned. I don't know. Naomi crossed the room, standing close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. You don't owe her anything, she said quietly. I owe her the truth. Even if it destroys you? He looked down at her, and for the first time, his armor cracked. I'm already destroyed, he whispered. And before Naomi could stop herself, she reached up and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperation. Grief. Need. When they finally pulled apart, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. You shouldn't be here, he said. Neither should you. I'm serious, Naomi. This life, it'll ruin you. Maybe I'm already ruined. He pulled back, his eyes searching hers. You're not. Then let me decide that for myself. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, and Naomi felt the last of her resistance crumble. She knew this was wrong. Knew she was crossing a line she could never uncross. But she didn't care. Lucia agreed to meet him. Dominic didn't tell Naomi where or when. Just that it was happening. And that she couldn't come. But Naomi followed him anyway. She stayed far enough back that his driver wouldn't notice. Watched as the car pulled up to a pier in Staten Island. Watched as Dominic got out, alone, and walked toward a woman standing at the water's edge. Even from a distance, Naomi could see it. The way Lucia looked at him. The way he looked at her. And in that moment, Naomi understood what heartbreak really felt like. She didn't hear what they said. But she saw Lucia reach for him. Saw Dominic step back. Saw the moment he turned and walked away. And when he got back in the car, Naomi was already gone. She didn't answer his calls. Didn't respond to his texts. For 3 days, she disappeared into her own life, trying to remember who she'd been before Dominic Russo walked into it. But on the 4th day, someone knocked on her door. It wasn't Dominic. It was Lucia. I need to talk to you, Lucia said. Naomi's heart pounded. How did you find me? Dominic told me. Naomi's chest tightened. Why are you here? Lucia stepped inside, uninvited. She looked older up close. Tired. Worn by guilt. Because you need to know the truth, Lucia said. About him. About me. About what's coming. I don't want to hear it. Too bad. Lucia sat down, her hands shaking slightly. 5 years ago, I made a choice. I thought I was saving him. Saving his family. I gave the FBI everything they wanted. And in return, they promised me protection. A new life. And you left him, Naomi said coldly. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Lucia's eyes filled with tears. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to lose him? Then why didn't you tell him? Because they would have killed him. Lucia's voice broke. If Dominic knew I was alive, he would have come for me. And they would have killed him to keep me quiet. Naomi stared at her. So you let him think you were dead. I thought it was mercy. It wasn't. Lucia wiped her eyes. I know. But I didn't come here to apologize. I came to warn you. About what? The FBI's coming for him. They've been building a case for years. And now that I'm back, they want me to testify. Naomi's blood ran cold. You're going to turn on him again? I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. Lucia stood, her expression hardening. You don't understand. This world, it's not romance. It's not love. It's survival. And if you stay with him, you'll learn that the hard way. She walked to the door, then paused. He cares about you, Lucia said quietly. I can see it. That's why you need to leave. Before it's too late. She left. And Naomi sat in the silence, her hands trembling. Because she knew Lucia was right. But she also knew she wasn't leaving. The FBI came at dawn. Naomi was at Dominic's penthouse when the doors exploded inward. Armed agents flooded the space, shouting commands, weapons drawn. Dominic didn't fight. He just stood there, hands raised, his eyes finding Naomi's across the chaos. Don't say anything, he mouthed. They cuffed him, read him his rights, dragged him toward the elevator. And Naomi, standing in her borrowed robe, watched the man she loved disappear into federal custody. The next 72 hours were a blur. Lawyers, interrogations, news coverage. Dominic's face was everywhere, tabloids, cable news, social media. The golden boy of New York's underworld, finally brought down. And Lucia's testimony was the nail in the coffin. Naomi watched it on the courtroom monitors. Watched Lucia sit on the stand, composed and cold, and recount every crime, every deal, every dirty secret. Dominic never looked at her. He just stared straight ahead, his expression unreadable. But when the prosecutor asked Lucia if she regretted her decision to cooperate, she hesitated. No, she said finally. I did what I had to do. And Naomi saw it, the flicker of pain in Dominic's eyes. He'd loved her. And she'd destroyed him. After the hearing, Naomi went to see him. The visitation room was sterile. Cold. Dominic sat on the other side of the glass, his suit replaced by prison gray. You shouldn't be here, he said. I'm not leaving. Naomi. I'm not leaving, she repeated, her voice breaking. Dominic looked at her, and for the first time, she saw tears in his eyes. This is my life, he said quietly. This is who I am. And you deserve better. I don't want better. I want you. You can't have both. Naomi pressed her hand against the glass. Then I choose you. Dominic's hand mirrored hers, separated by inches of bulletproof partition. I'm going away for a long time, he whispered. Maybe forever. Then I'll wait. Don't. You don't get to tell me what to do. He smiled, just barely. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. The guard called time. Dominic stood, his eyes never leaving hers. I love you, he said. And before Naomi could respond, he was gone. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Naomi attended every day, sat in the back row, watched as the prosecution dismantled Dominic's life piece by piece. And through it all, Lucia never looked at her. But on the final day of testimony, something changed. The defense called Naomi to the stand. She didn't know why, didn't know what they wanted her to say. But as she sat in the witness box, facing the jury, she realized what was happening. They were trying to prove Dominic was capable of love, of humanity, that he wasn't just a monster. The prosecutor tore into her. Ms. Carter, are you aware that Mr. Russo has been convicted of racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder? Yes. And yet you're here to defend him? I'm here to tell the truth. Which is? Naomi looked at Dominic. He sat perfectly still, his eyes locked on hers. That he saved my life, she said quietly. That he protected me when no one else would. That he gave me a choice when I had none. And you think that absolves him? No. But it means he's more than what you say he is. The prosecutor smirked. Or maybe it just means you're in love with a criminal. Naomi's hands trembled. Maybe. But at least I know what love costs. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Dominic was sentenced to 25 years. No parole. Naomi didn't cry. Not in the courtroom. Not in the hallway. Not until she was alone in her apartment, staring at the city lights, that she finally broke. because she'd lost him. And there was nothing she could do to bring him back. But 2 weeks later, she received a letter. It was from Dominic. Handwritten. Smuggled out through his lawyer. Naomi. Asterisk, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. Asterisk. But I need you to know something. Asterisk, you were never a mistake. You were the only thing that made sense. Asterisk. Asterisk, don't wait for me. Don't put your life on hold. Live. Love. Be the person I know you can be. Asterisk. Asterisk, and if, someday, you think of me, remember this asterisk. You saved me first. Asterisk always. Dominic asterisk. Naomi folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Then she walked to the mirror and looked at herself, really looked. She wasn't the same woman who'd walked into that bar a year ago. She was stronger. Harder. Broken in places that would never fully heal. But she was still standing. And that, she realized, was enough. 5 years later, Naomi Carter stood in front of a brownstone in Brooklyn, a key in her hand. She'd bought it with money she'd earned herself. Saved. Invested. Built. She was a paralegal now, working for a nonprofit that helped women escape domestic violence. She'd turned her pain into purpose. And every night, before she went to bed, she looked at the photograph on her nightstand. Dominic. Smiling. Younger. Whole. She hadn't seen him in 5 years. Hadn't written. Hadn't visited. But she thought about him. Every single day. And then, on a Tuesday morning in October, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Naomi. Her breath caught. She knew that voice. Dominic. I'm out. Tears spilled down her cheeks. How? Appeal. New evidence. Doesn't matter. I'm out. Where are you? Outside. Naomi walked to the window. And there he was. Standing on the street. Older. Grayer. But alive. She dropped the phone and ran. They met on the sidewalk, neither of them speaking. Just looking. You waited, he said finally. I didn't, Naomi whispered. I lived. Just like you told me to. Then why are you crying? Because you're here. Dominic reached up, wiping a tear from her cheek. I don't know if I'm the same man, he said quietly. I don't know if I'm the same woman. Then maybe we can figure it out together. Naomi smiled through her tears. And for the first time in 5 years, she felt whole. This is the kind of story that stays with you long after it ends. If you felt something, sadness, anger, or hope, leave a comment and tell me exactly what you feel and what you are thinking. And if you want more stories like this, stories that make you feel everything, subscribe. Because love, loss, and redemption never get old. They just get deeper.